Could you introduce the concept of UN PRME?
PRME, or the Principles for Responsible Management Education, is an initiative by the United Nations and by the United Nations Global Compact to encourage business schools worldwide to, instead of being the best in the world, to become the best for the world. We created PRIME in 2007, just at the beginning of the last global financial crisis. And since then we have learned that many business schools are using the 6 PRME principles to very creatively, but also very profoundly, think through how they have to change the curriculum and the research and also organizational practices to address sustainability in all its functions. So when we started with a very small group of business schools, and now we have about 600 business schools worldwide. A lot of them also here in Asia, even though we have still very much potential to grow, especially here in India where we are currently. But we see that this call from the United Nations, in partnership with a lot of core partners, from accreditation to other business school associations, has really helped to make a first step in this path to transform management education to again become the best for the world, because that's what we want to do. We want to transform how management education is taught and how researchers look at problems and how researchers can help to think through how business can become a force for good.
As the head of the UN PRME, how do you define sustainability?
So, working for the United Nations, I use the very famous definition of the Brundtland report from 1987 to approach what I mean by sustainability. This definition, for the first time in 87, defined sustainable development in a triple bottom line concept, saying that development needs to take care of human development, economic development, and also environmental considerations. So bringing these 3 spheres together is a basis for sustainability. Now when you approach it from the perspective of a company, we call it corporate responsibility, but we mean the same concept. In this case we talk about the triple bottom line. It's again, how does a company become financially viable by also considering the environment and society? So in the end, corporate responsibility is to focus the company's perspective on solving societal issues. Very concretely, climate change, poverty, gender inequality, or other types of inequalities. How can companies make a difference in addressing that through their products and services? That's what is the core of corporate responsibility. And then translated that into responsible management education, this is how you teach about this and how you inspire students, current and future executives, current and future managers to become more responsible when they become part of organizations such as companies.
In a highly competitive world where profit making is the priority, how do you see sustainability becoming an opportunity?
I think it's not a contradiction. I believe you can become very profitable by adhering to the triple bottom line. I think many companies look at this as a false dichotomy, and I would claim that many of the sustainability leading companies currently can show to their shareholders that they perform better than before they entered onto the sustainability path. So I would say we have to redefine the question and have to say you can become very profitable by taking care of the environment and of societal issues. Big companies like Unilever, for example, give you an example, but many of the small and medium-sized enterprises, also in the Asian context specifically, are good examples for this. So I would claim that sustainability can be a driver for business success, specifically when you look at the long term. Now obviously there are issues and there are complex issues to solve. Not all companies will have the same incentives to look at sustainability as a core driver, but I think each market provides enough incentives for companies to figure out how and why sustainability and the issues connected to it, inequality, environmental degradation, gender inequality, poverty, can become challenges that can be turned into opportunities, business opportunities, and that then makes it a business opportunity to work in, and of course also deliver profits, because that's what companies need to generate.
What are your views on the relevance of sustainability in an emerging economy like India?
I think when I look at some of the 8,000 companies that have by now joined and signed up to the UN Global Compact, many of them come from emerging markets, many of them come from India. I think it is so obvious when I have been here now for these days. If you look around, you just have to open your eyes and you see challenges that are connected to sustainability when you walk on the streets of any street, not just in a country like India, in many other emerging markets. So when you look at the issue of poverty, for example, I would claim that many companies have a real responsibility to help solve that through employment, through the products, and through other social engagement, for example, philanthropy. So in a country like India, where you see that on a day-to-day basis, I would claim that many companies have a real chance to say, how can we deal with that? How can we help to address that? I've seen that here at the Goa Institute of Management, you have courses that bring students into your local community to help think that through from a student perspective. The same happens to companies. And so I would think, and I've seen the result of many of the companies we've seen here in India, they have come up with the most creative sustainability solutions that some of the companies in the developed world won't have to deal with, because there maybe the government or maybe the social situation is different, maybe better. So some of those very creative solutions to corporate sustainability come from India and come from other emerging countries, because you have social and environmental challenges that have to be dealt with, not just by actors like NGOs and governments, but specifically also through companies.
Like Goa Institute of Management is hosting PRME this year. What are your expectations from other business schools across Asia promoting responsible management education? And where do you see the future of it?
Currently we count about 90 business schools as signatories to PRME in Asia, so there is definitely room for growth. I can say that in India and in China alone, there are close to 12,000 business schools, so I think we have a lot of potential for growth. I would like to encourage any business school that has an interest in responsible management education to consider signing up. It's a very easy process, and to be part of this movement, because it's a real movement that we're creating, and many of those schools which are already part of it, GIM or other schools in Asia, are good examples that we can learn from. So I would encourage other schools to come on board, and those who are already part of the PRIME platform to help recruit more business schools, recruit deans and peers from fellow schools to join this group of schools which is already committed to PRIME.
Well, this time the stop was Goa Institute of Management at Goa, India. Where would your next stop be and why?
So we met for the 6th time in the Asia PRIME Forum here at Goa Institute of Management. Next year in 2016, this meeting will be held in Hong Kong at Polytech University in Hong Kong. This will be the 7th edition of the PRIME Asia Forum, and this will then bring the PRIME Asia Forum to another Asian country. Previously we've met in South Korea, China, Japan, the Philippines, Malaysia, and now this year in India. So next year Hong Kong will be a new country to host the meeting in. I myself will continue also to travel to other regions, because we have now a very thriving network around the world. So my personal very next trip is going to be in England, where I'm going to see some of the business schools we work with actually next week already.